We were that close. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. So, the draft came, the Cleveland Browns were on the clock, and they traded back with Jacksonville to number 5. They traded out of the chance of drafting Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, the two guys that we've spoken about all off season. I've said multiple times, they have to leave the draft with one of these guys unless they get a haul. Did they get a haul? You could argue that they did, but I'll be honest, in the moment, I'm still a little bit salty to have Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, placed in front of you on a platter all off season, to only have it then snatched away from you in the dying seconds is a little bit, it's a little bit annoying. It was a tough thing to swallow, but it's not the end of the world. As I said, they got a bit of a haul. They traded the number 2 overall pick, as well as their 4th round pick, 104, and their 6th round pick, pick number 200, to the Jaguars for pick number 5, a 2nd round pick, which is number 36, a 4th round pick, 126, and a 2026 1st round pick. That was the last thing that was written in the tweet. I thought it would be the first thing that would be, written as the future first. So at first I was slightly worried that there wasn't a future first in here, because if there wasn't, then yes, I would be crashing out in this video right now. I'd be crashing out on social media, demanding that every single person in the building was fired. But they did get a future first round pick. But as I said, elephant in the room, of course, all of us are disappointed that the Browns traded out, of the chance to get two guys that, in my opinion, were the 2 blue chip prospects in this draft. There was them 2 and a gap between everyone else. But, as I said, in a vacuum, they got a great haul to move down just 3 spots. I mean, shit, getting a future first, an extra 2nd this year, and drafting who I haven't even mentioned yet, which is a disservice to him, because, someone who was my 3rd, 4th favourite prospect in this draft, is a good outcome. But, and there's a lot of buts in this one, I'm going to need a few hours to get over the fact that I won't get to see either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter in orange and brown, after, as I said, talking about them both all off season. But, and I probably should have started with him, but let's get to the newest member of the Cleveland Browns, Mason Graham, because, at the end of the day, the Browns didn't draft Abdul Carter, they didn't draft Travis Hunter. We might be salty about it, but it happened. Mason Graham is a Cleveland Brown, so, fuck all the other guys that we spoke about. It's Mason Graham. He is the guy. And, Mason Graham is a great defensive line prospect. I think because of how highly we've spoken about Hunter and Carter, it's as if there's no other good players in the draft at all. But Mason Graham certainly headlines the next tier of players behind those 2 guys, and I do think can become a really good NFL player. Of course, the Browns think that as well. That's why they've, traded back and were happy to select him with the 5th pick. A lot of a lot of reports, when they are about to trade the pick and after they just traded the pick, that they were targeting Mason Graham in the trade back. So, they clearly have a lot of interest in him and believe that, he is a good enough prospect to trade back out of the chance of, as I said, drafting a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But, Mason Graham is a free tech, who offers high pass rush upside, but can also play all across the line. So it's another weapon for Jim Schwartz, and, to mix into that defensive line. Earlier on in the draft process, he was regarded as, one of the top defensive tackle prospects to come out in the last few years. But he did kind of get lost in the sauce of the Hunter, Carter, and all the quarterback talk, and he's a little bit on the shorter side. I suppose that's the biggest criticism of him, but to be honest, he ticks all the boxes in terms of power, athleticism, and skill on the defensive line, can win in a multitude of ways. Just a really well-rounded defensive lineman. He comes from a wrestling background. He was a high school champion wrestler, which shows in his, really strong hands. His power, his incredible balance, while he's able to win with finesse. His ability to win with power and bull rush his way through double teams on the inside. That is something that stands out with Mason Graham. Pairing him with Miles will be exciting. It offers positional flexibility. As I said, he can play all across the line. You can interchange those guys. You can use multiple fronts on that defensive line. He's just another weapon to bring in, to this defensive line. As I said, for Jim Schwartz to get creative with. He moves really well for someone at nearly 300 pounds. So, whether he plays on the inside, whether he plays, all across that line, whatever they do with him, he's going to be effective. He's going to be able to, rush the passer. That is, as I said, I think one of the biggest upsides with him. It's why he's been an intriguing prospect for so many people, is because, pass rush upside in the interior is such a valuable thing in the NFL. I've said it before on this channel. Look at both of the guys that were in the Super Bowl last year. The two teams in the Super Bowl who were their main defensive players. The Eagles, Jalen Carter, and the Chiefs, Chris Jones. Two guys that are exactly that to a T. Guys that offer high pass rush high pass rush upside at the defensive interior position, which is, as I said, just so valuable. And you pair that with a player like Myles Garrett, and that that offers a lot. It is an exciting pick. As I said, you're of course going to be pissed that Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter were there for the taking and the Browns traded back. There's been numerous occasions in the past where the Cleveland Browns have had a very good prospect there. They've traded back, and it's not looked so great for them. Later on, a few years later, with every trade, with every pick, we will never know for a few years. It's going to take a few years until we can look back and judge this trade. So, as I said, we can all be annoyed, but in the end of the day, if in 4 years' time, Mason Graham is a two-time Pro Bowler, an all-time a first-team All-Pro, and has been a part of multiple AFC Championship teams, then I don't think too many people are going to be as annoyed as they are tonight. Yes, I'll say it one more time. It is disappointing to have Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter there on a platter right in front of you all off season. Two truly blue chip prospects, two guys that, generational level athletes at worst and generational level players at best. Just two top tier prospects that the Browns, of course, have, I say never play for the Browns. You never know what could happen down the line in the future, but will not start their careers with the Cleveland Browns. But as I said at the start, they aren't Cleveland Browns, so fuck them. Mason Graham, you are a Cleveland Brown. Welcome to Cleveland. I'm happy to have you here. We're all happy to have you here. Yes, he is a Wolverine. He did play for that team up north, but in doing so, he's actually never lost in Ohio. So hopefully he can bring that winning in Ohio, to the Browns instead of doing it for Michigan. And hopefully that's the last time this year that Michigan win in Ohio. But yeah, it's a little bit annoying face value. But as I said, when the dust settles, to get a future first, to get an extra second this year, that's pretty good value. That's a pretty good haul. If they're able to take one of these quarterbacks at 33, if they don't need to use any ammo to trade up, currently as of recording, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, all those other guys are still on the board. If the Browns don't need to use any ammo to trade up, one of those guys fall to 33. Hopefully, if you a subscriber of mine, you'd know who I want it to be, Jalen Milroe. And if one of those guys fall to 33 and you've got an extra second round pick at 36 to go and address running back, safety, tight end, offensive tackle, then that is going to be, great value for the trade and will certainly make the trade, feel better and look better. But as I said, you're allowed to be annoyed. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be annoyed for a little bit of time about this one. But it happened. Mason Graham's a Cleveland Brown, so welcome to Cleveland, Mason Graham. I might be repeating myself a few times. I am incredibly tired. It is nearly 3 a.m. Here in the UK as of recording. We are going all through the night, going until the morning, all the way to the end of the draft. Because as I said, if the Browns don't, they might trade up, so I might have to stay up for that. But even if they don't, we're going to get to see that pool of players that don't go in the first round, that are going to be there in the second round, that the Browns are going to have the first selection of, and then a few picks later have another pick of as well. So certainly exciting. Is it as exciting as bringing in Travis Hunter and an Abdul Carter? That is up for you guys to decide. I'm sure where most of you will go with that, but we got some extra picks. We got a future first round pick next year to load up maybe to ammo for a quarterback. You never know. And more picks in the top 100. We've now got 5 picks in the top 100, which is a lot of picks in the top 100, no matter what Diana Rossini says. But yeah, pardon me. I'll probably end it at that for this one. If anything else happens during the night, I will be here. I will be covering it. My throat is starting to go. My eyes are starting to go. But guys, Mason Graham's a Cleveland Brown. You might be annoyed now, but once you see him in brown and orange and you see how good he is as a player, yes, he might not be a Travis Hunter, but still a great player. Use these next 4 picks. If they nail these next 4 picks, then all will be forgiven, and I will be happy with the trade back, getting Mason Graham, and then, as I said, nailing the next 4 picks if that's what happens. So we'll have to wait and see. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my content, then please drop this video a like, hit the subscribe button. It's free, but it really, really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can follow and interact with me on social media. As I always say, I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and even if I only get to talk to one fan a day, I'm happy because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Thanks again for watching, guys. As I said, enjoy the rest of the night. Enjoy the rest of the draft. I'll be here covering it all. I might be sleepy, but I'll be here. But as always, most importantly, go Browns and go Mason Graham.